Hi, friends, and welcome to Life Intended, the podcast for women on a journey to take ownership of their own lives.
We're your hosts, Kelly Berry and Sadie Wackett, leaders, coaches, friends, and women on our own journeys of self-leadership.
Here, we don't believe women need to be fixed.
We believe they need to stop seeking permission and start leading lives that they choose and they design.
Life Intended is about unlearning truths that have been handed to us and start trusting your truth and living in alignment with what matters most.
Each week, we're bringing you bold, honest conversations that challenge the stories holding you back, help you uncover and step into your own voice, your own purpose, and your own power.
From inspirational guest interviews to unfiltered chats between the two of us, you'll leave every episode with insights, tools, and the kind of encouragement that sticks.
This is your space to wake up, break free, and lead the life you were always meant to live. Let's get into it.
Julia Arpag is the founder and CEO of Aligned Recruitment, a tech recruitment firm built on a mission to change the way businesses grow their teams. Since launching in 2023, Julia has scaled her company with remarkable speed, which we will talk about a little bit today, reaching 7 figures in new business, all while remaining bootstrapped and profitable from day one. Her approach is different. She helps mission-driven SaaS startups hire world-class engineering talent through values-based recruiting, referral-based growth, and a people-first philosophy. Beyond her work with clients, Julia is committed to impact, donating a portion of profits to foster and adoptive ministries, and living her mission at home as a foster mom. As a speaker and storyteller, Julia is known for delivering hard truths with optimism, practicality, and infectious energy. At the core of her journey is a simple but powerful goal: to follow Jesus in life and business, build something that makes the world better for her family, community, and clients, and have fun along the way. Welcome, Julia. I'm thrilled to have you here, really.
Kelly, you're so kind. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So just a little bit of backstory on Julia. I met her last year. I mentioned she's a recruiter. I was in a hiring process and we had a couple of phone conversations, and it was pretty easy to see that Julia is just different than most recruiters. And really, when I mentioned she has a different philosophy, she really does. And she'll probably talk about it some. If it comes up, we're not going to focus on recruiting, of course, but she just is somebody who cares about getting to know people and getting to know what's important to them. And I think that anybody who has been in a hiring process recently knows that that is not really the norm. So that stood out. And then we became LinkedIn connections. Julia puts out great content. I do want to talk about the growth of your LinkedIn profile over the past couple of years and what that has been like. Her content is just so authentic, and it is so aligned with Life Intended and what we do. And so I'm really excited to talk to her. I think I'll frame this in a way where I think Julia on her journey is probably, we talk to and talk about a lot of transitions in life and a lot of like feeling this friction of not really being where you want to be. And I will say, well, Julia will probably say she's not like where she wants to be necessarily, that I would say she's well on the other side of waking up out of that autopilot and stop living like somebody else's life and really taking hold of her life and making it what she wants to be. So I'm excited to talk to her about what that has looked like, what that has felt like, what that friction has been like. So before I just keep talking, Julia, welcome. Tell us anything else we should know about you other than what I
Kelly,
read.
this is so affirming. There's like nothing else to say. This is a very kind introduction. Thank you. One thing I will say about meeting you last year, when we were chatting about that role that you were contemplating taking, you were delightful. So I do seek to connect with all of my candidates and really understand their background and their story, but you were so easy to talk to. Like you're delightful. You're so fun. You're very authentic, hence Life Intended. So you made it so easy. So I want you to give yourself a lot of credit for how our relationship has grown. Like a lot of it was you. So thank you for your kind words, but I want to make sure you know that you were a lot of that as well. And yeah, I'm very happy to speak to all of these pieces. It is super important to me that I am authentic in all areas of my life. I've been super transparent, like you said, on LinkedIn. I have grown my LinkedIn following largely by being so honest
Mhm.
and by talking about life as a mom and as a foster mom and as a business owner. I'm just not willing to cut off any parts of myself to be more palatable to people who I don't really want their approval anyway. So that's been a really
Mhm.
huge part of how I've built the business, to be authentic and not to have to be something that is just another job you have, like where you're
Yeah.
just kind of putting in the hours and then going back to your real life, quote unquote. I want it to be integrated.
Yeah. So that's a great point. Have you always been able to kind of be yourself and not be concerned with the approval of others, or is that something that you've had to kind of work towards on this journey as well?
No, I came out of the womb totally self-actualized. I've never struggled with confidence. No, I was actually a super shy little kid. I was
Mhm.
very shy. So I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and I had a very close, loving family growing up, but we were homeschooled. And so I was super socially awkward. Like I was totally the stereotype of a homeschooler. So my parents had surprise triplets when I was 8 years old,
Wow.
which is how we went from 4 kids to 7 kids overnight. And so that meant I had to go to school and not be homeschooled anymore because my mom just couldn't breastfeed 7 or 3 children and
Yeah.
homeschool 4, understandably. So I went to school for the first time when I was 9, and it was a brutal process. Like I very much felt like I had to cut off parts of myself to fit in because I was like,
Mhm.
I'm so awkward. Like I was not socialized the same way these kids were. I honestly just wanted to play with my siblings and read books. Like that's all I wanted to do. But I was like, that doesn't really make you super popular in public school, it turns out. So there was a long process of kind of navigating who I was, who I wanted to be. And I think a huge formative experience for me was in 6th grade. I basically decided to cultivate a more outgoing personality. I was like, okay, I've seen what life I can build if I'm quiet and shy and self conscious. I don't like that life. I'm not enjoying that life. So I'm going to build a life where I am outgoing and confident and speak my mind and hang out with friends and put myself out on a limb and do things I'm scared to do and see what kind of life that creates for me. I like it a lot better. I like that life a lot
Yeah.
better. I still love to read. I still love to hang out with my siblings. So I did retain those pieces that were important to me. But a lot of my formative years as a preteen, teenager, and then into college, and even now as a working adult, has been me coming to terms with kind of combining what I want to do with also like just what needs to be done. Like now that I'm a mom, I was a foster mom for 5 years, like we talked about. I've been a wife for 10 years, kind of what it looks like to honor all of those people, honor myself, and honor the goals that I have for me and my family and my business.
Yeah. So that sounds like a whole lot of awareness for a 6th grader. Do you know where that came from? I mean, I don't know what I was doing, like twiddling my thumbs, watching TGIF on Friday nights. I don't know.
That is so funny,
Not
Kelly.
that.
So to be candid, I think a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that I wasn't watching TV. My parents were the strictest screen people I've ever met in my life. I could watch 1 hour of TV per week until I was
Wow.
like in college. I'm not joking. So I had a lot of time to reflect and read, which is
Mhm.
honestly why I think I am the way I am today. I'm not even joking. And honestly, a big part of why parenting's been tough for me. My 2 kids are 4 and 2, and they just do not leave you a lot of time to reflect.
No.
This is the most time poor I have ever been in my
Mhm.
life. So I'm really missing those good old 6th grade years when all I had to do was go to school and then like contemplate. That's all I
Yeah.
did. That
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I feel you. I have one 3-year-old. I know I mentioned this, but I have one child, and I just cannot imagine how people have multiple because I feel like she just needs so much. Like,
Mhm.
she's just everything all the time.
Yes.
So, yes, I also don't have any time, and I also don't know what I do with all the time. I mean, I won't say that because I one of the things that I like about where I am in life and kind of like my intention is that I'm a present parent. So,
I love
I
that.
know that while it feels like I'm time poor, I am like sitting down to eat breakfast with her, playing with her after school. I'm like
Mhm.
actually I'm there. I'm doing the things, we're reading, we're doing everything, but it's like my to-do list just grows longer by the minute
Mhm.
of all the things that there just are not enough hours in the day. And,
Yes.
that's fine.
Yes, and the biggest thing that I've come to feel time poor about is that reflection piece.
Mhm.
Like, sometimes I feel like I am a very reflective person, like, that is very life-giving to me to have time to journal and to pray and to read and to meditate. So that's the biggest thing that I'm missing in this season of parenting littles.
Mhm.
And because kids, yes, demand your attention. Like you simply must, like you said, like be there for meal times, be there for bath time, be there to play, be there for like family walks. Like I agree that all of that trumps my own desires for that alone time and that time to kind of be more contemplative. But I do miss it. I would say
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing. I'm feeling like, man, because there aren't enough hours in the day for all the things I'd like to do. That's the one that's had to kind of become more of a fit it in if and when I can versus like
Yes.
I've got to run the business. I've got to raise my kids. I've got to date my husband. I've got to see my friends. Like I would say those are my time priorities right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take just a second and like expand on that for the work that we do in Life Intended because I think it's such a good connection, even though this is kind of like a plug. What we find in talking with a lot of women who are moms who do have careers is that they don't have space. In addition to not having space, we're constantly consuming. So we're listening to podcasts, we're reading books, we're sharing memes with our friends. We have all of these things coming at us. And the next thing you know, you have a list of 40 things that you would like to be doing in your morning routine to be like healthy and mentally stable, but you don't have 2.5 hours in the morning and all of this stuff. And so one of the things that we do and all of our programming in Life Intended is create that space. So we provide space to metabolize and digest all of the things that are coming at you. So when we're talking about like breath work will help you become like more mentally calm, or here's like some exercises that you can do when you get really stressed. Like we practice it in our sessions. We have a breathwork session. We have the visualization sessions. We introduce frameworks and then like walk through how you would use this and what this looks like in real time so that you're not just like showing up to something, learning 15 more tools that you then have to go and like figure out when am I going to have time to figure this out? How am I going to integrate it? And so that is like one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get is, just how good that space feels for women like us who are just our days are bookend with family and obligations, and then we've got work in the middle, and any time that we can carve out to do those things is really, really important. So that is one thing that I wanted to say. Another thing that Sadie, my partner, and I are working on right now is like journal prompts for women who don't journal. And what this looks like is journaling is like a very aspirational thing. Like everybody wants to do it, everybody knows the benefits of it, but it's that time that is like it's so hard to get and the routine is just kind of hard to get down. So what we're putting together are like prompts that you can read and then think about like while you're brushing your teeth or while you're driving in the car or while you're walking back to your car after school drop off. Like how can we take these little bites of time and use them for more of those reflective practices? Just because, like, I know the value of reflection, the value of reflection. Like, that is truly how you grow as a person.
Yeah.
So, how do we do that for all the people who are like, I would love to journal, but I don't have like 20 minutes in the morning or whatever it is, and kind of just make it a little bit more accessible. So, I thought those were really good points that you brought up because they're so valuable, truly.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
that's the journey I've been on recently as well, is realizing I can't have my optimal schedule right now because I've
Mhm,
chosen the beautiful life of getting to have these two gorgeous little boys. And that just means that's where my focus is in this season when they do need me so much versus on that time intensive journaling and reflection and reading. So for me, I actually love that. So what I do when I'm brushing my teeth is I have uh, recorded affirmations, and that's kind of my like centering practice that I do before I get into my workday. And then at the end of the day, my like decompression time is that's when I get to read my books. My brain is too fried to like journal and have this like deep reflective time when it's right
mhm,
about to be bedtime. But at least I do get to catch up on, whatever I want to be reading at the time. So yes, I agree.
mhm,
You just kind of have to like be realistic. Okay, what kind of time do I have? And then what can I slip into those slots so that it's life giving and not just more consumption? Because you're so right.
mhm,
Like we get consumption fatigue from all the
mhm,
podcasts we're listening to, all the ways we're trying to optimize our family, our life, our business, our mind, our health. And then eventually we just can't process it all. And that is overwhelming. Like the process of
mhm.
self improvement can be overwhelming if we don't give ourselves enough time to actually reflect on it and figure
Yeah,
out what actually fits into our life.
yes. And the irony is not lost on me that we're talking about this on a podcast that we're hoping that people listen to. But, you know
We hope that people reflect on it.
yes,
Not just consume it. So that's what's
right,
different.
right. Exactly. Awesome. Okay, well, that was kind of a tangent, but great great conversation, and I think that that's just one of those things that I'd like to continue raise awareness in people about. So, back to you and your story. So, talk to me a little bit. I know your story, but talk to me and the listeners about like what maybe the last 5 or 6 years has looked like for you. Yeah, start there and then we'll dig in with questions and things like
Let's
that.
do it. Let's do it. So I've been recruiting that whole time. So I've worked for several different companies and agencies and loved it. Recruitment has turned out to be a really good fit for me, which I honestly didn't expect. But to your point, I think because I am very people oriented, I have a genuine curiosity about people's stories and what drives them and what they care about. It's allowed me to be pretty successful in my recruitment career. So I was a top performer at all the companies I worked at before I started the business. So I started thinking about starting a business about 3 years ago, but it felt terrifying. It felt
Mhm.
like I don't even know how to file an LLC. I don't know how to do business taxes. I don't know, gosh, I don't know how to send an invoice. Like I couldn't even imagine all of the things I'd have to learn. So even though I knew how to recruit, I was like, there's a whole other skill set that I just don't have. And I had never sold. Like I'd only ever recruited candidates for existing clients. I'd never
Mhm.
pitched my services to a client to get them to pay me to go recruit for them.
Mhm.
So all of it just felt so terrifying. And then the agency that I was working for at the time did me, honestly, it was a huge gift that they did this, but they did me the favor of laying me off when I was 5 weeks postpartum with my now 2 year old. So it basically kicked me out of the nest where I was like, okay, I've been thinking about starting a business for a year now. I can finally just do it. And what was incredible is I got a lot of job offers in the wake of that layoff from clients who had worked with me while I was a recruiter at that agency. They offered me to come on full time. And so I was like, wait, if I start my own agency, I can say yes to all of you and I can just work fractionally for all of you. So that's what I did. And because I struck when the iron was hot, we had a lot of early momentum. I built the business with a baby strapped to my chest. Like I have so many recordings of me just like bopping along and chatting with, VCs and founders and CEOs, and my 2 year old or now 2 year old was just along for the ride, which
Mhm.
I'm grateful for, right? Like he was a pretty easy baby. So he was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was basically the origin story of my recruitment career and then Aligned Recruitment, becoming a business about 2 years ago.
Nice. So let's talk about. I know I've seen a lot of posts from you about kind of the way that people treated you early in your career or the things about you that didn't quite fit their own narratives. I
Hmm.
think you've got a lot of interesting stories about that. And I think that those are things that women that happen to them a lot. They're
Hmm.
told they're too X, they're too Y, So talk a little bit about like all of these labels that you were given kind of earlier in your career and how you use those to fuel this I'll say like evolution.
Let's say evolution. I love that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would say my number one quality that I now view as a superpower, but I had a lot of bosses who were really critical of it, is my intensity. So I am very driven. I'm very loud. Like if we were in the same room right now, like you just hear like my volume is bizarrely loud. I think it's because I was from this giant family where
Mm.
you had to yell to be heard, but whatever. So I had one boss who literally had me write a post-it that said shh and put it on my computer. She was like, I can hear you down the hall. You need to be quieter. And I was like, okay. So that was one.
Mhm.
And then that same boss actually was frustrated by me because my intensity parlayed itself into always wanting to be better, always wanting to use better systems and tools and processes and basically be the best I could be. She was more old school. She was a couple years away from retirement and she was like, can we just not?
Mhm.
Like she would literally print out emails and carry them into my office to discuss
Mm.
them. Like that was kind of her level of tech savvy. So, yeah, lots and lots of examples from earlier on in my career when I lacked the tact I have now, where now I can navigate conversations with a lot more finesse than I could then. Then I was literally a bull in a china shop. But like I said, I have definitely come to believe that my intensity is a superpower and is a gift in that I don't take no for an answer. I'm very tenacious, and all the same things that I was criticized for by bosses like that one have allowed me to be a very good boss of my own. where I
Mhm.
don't need anyone holding me to a certain standard because I'm going to hold myself to an even higher one. And rather than let myself believe that they were right and that these were criticisms that should be levied against me, I truly have cultivated the belief that these are gifts and these are unique ways that I am in the world. And so I get to choose what life I want to lead that best shows them off instead of punching myself into boxes where I have to minimize those natural qualities I have to make myself more palatable to the people around me.
Yeah. Was there like, did you feel like you should mute those things or should make a change, or did you always kind of know that these were assets instead of liabilities for you?
I always knew they were assets, but I also knew I needed to do some work to figure out how to make them assets. Like I had to
Mhm.
figure out what rooms to get in. I had to figure out what roles to be in. I had to figure out what circles to cultivate so that they could be I knew they were assets, but I needed to get into rooms where they would function as assets. So that was the work I had to do coming out of conversations like those.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's great because that's not in my experience, that's not what I've seen. I've seen, people, women specifically, take that feedback, we'll call it feedback, as truth. And like
Hmm.
they're the ones that need to make the change to fit in or assimilate or, fit the narrative of whatever their manager or boss tells them their narrative needs to be in that role. So I think that's pretty impressive that you were able to do that. Uh,
Always believed that we are the authority. Like I've really never believed. So my authority is Jesus. I'm a Christian, so he's my highest authority. Next to him, I really don't view other people as being right inherently and me needing to fit into what they tell me is right
mhm,
or wrong. That works really well when I have a boss who's not intimidated by that confidence. It does not work well when I do have a boss who's intimidated by
mhm.
that confidence. So that's why I've had some phenomenal leaders who to this day we're still in touch and they've cheered me on at each iteration of my career. And there's other leaders like this woman I mentioned too, who knows where she is today, right? Like so I think that's something that women can understand. Like especially we are so privileged that we live in America in 2025. My husband and I say to each other all the time, a big reason we're foster parents is because we were born with such incredible access and such incredible freedom. So the least we can do is share it with people who weren't born into the same situations. So that's my
Mhm,
biggest encouragement to give your audience is if they're listening to a podcast like this, they probably have incredible authority and autonomy in their lives that they can step into in a way that most people in the world cannot. Like they
mhm,
have options and they have freedom that most people do not.
mhm. Yes, absolutely. And I think, that the recognition of that and the ability to act on it is something that we're trying to like help people uncover in themselves because not everybody is as like, what I would say about you is like you have a immense sense of self-trust and a lot
Mhm.
of people do not. Whether that's their conditioning, whether that's circumstances over time, but a lot of people just doubt their intuition. They doubt that they know, they doubt themselves immensely. And I see your face, like it is sad. I mean, I struggle with this still, even like doing this work all the time. Just had to do a lot of work to like reconnect with my own like inner knowing that I might know the answer to something. I use this as a example all the time, and I think that you will really relate. Well, depending upon what your exposure to social media is, but may really relate because of the ages of your children. Now we live in this world where everybody's an expert in something. We have toddler sleep experts, we have toddler parenting experts, food experts, whatever there is, you name it, they have it. And so as we consume all of this information, it kind of strips away our own self-trust. And as
Mhm.
mothers, I don't think there's a more natural form of self-trust out there than what we know for our children. Yet we are inundated with all of these messages from these experts who tell us they know and we don't. And so anytime there is um, a parenting struggle or a sleep struggle or a food struggle, we're always looking externally. Like, who has this answer? Who can I pay to come in and fix this problem for me?
Mhm.
And while we think that we're like being resourceful and problem solvers, we are outsourcing our own knowing that maybe
Mhm.
we know what the best thing for our child that we live with, that you know, that we gave birth to, what they need. We're saying some stranger on the internet probably knows better than me what I need to do right now. But as women, like we're constantly being conditioned to do this, like with our health,
Mhm.
with our exercise, with our relationships, with everything. And so what we're trying to do is help people get back in touch with their own sense of self-trust that, maybe I do know if I just give myself some space to think about it, if I do some
Mhm.
reflection and, some of the other things that we talked about. So I think it's incredible, like what I'm hearing from you and like you're just really, really strong sense of self-trust because from my experience, that's not the norm right now.
Mhm. No, I
Yeah.
agree with you. I definitely think it's not the norm. And I think you're right. I think there's two sides to that coin. One side is like, what a gift that we do have all this access to
Mhm.
information. We're like my kids right now, today, recording this, have hand, foot, and mouth, which all toddler parents know is like the holy
Mhm.
grail of illness. Okay, so weeping and gnashing of teeth in my house right now. So I'm so grateful that I have access to experts who can
Mhm.
tell me like what I could do about it. Like, what are some medical options that I have before me? Like, I'm very grateful for the access to information. But I agree. The negative side of that coin is that we're like, oh, we don't have any of the answers, and experts out there have all of the answers. I completely agree with you. And it's this super careful, nuanced wisdom that we have to walk as we navigate which things fall on which side of those categories.
Yep. Yep. And it's truly like we end up outsourcing all of our power to other people when we let
Hmm.
them make all of these decisions for us. So I think
Hmm.
this is a good kind of like pivot into what you do professionally, because I think you have a lot of experience with women, like in careers and who may be struggling with some of these things to talk about like what are what do you see out of women right now and kind of along the same vein of either self-trust or trying to like stay on the hamster wheel and achieve something that they have kind of been told that they should want to achieve? What do you see from that angle?
Gosh, I'm a huge fan of getting off the hamster wheel. I'm not pro
Mhm.
hamster wheel at all. So to your point, when I am typically now my team is the one actually recruiting people, actually talking to candidates. But when I do occasionally get to chat with candidates, I do still genuinely get to know them. And I really suss out like, what are your motivators? And if they're like, well, I need to maintain this lifestyle, or I need to, I made this much money at my last job, so I better make more in my next job. But they don't want to be doing this. Like they don't enjoy
Mhm.
this. I'm like, okay, hold up, stop. Like I'm not gonna drag you into another role that you hate. Like that has clearly been so much of your story so far, which has resulted in us getting to make some really cool pivots. Like some of my candidates were in process for one client and ended up doing something completely different. Like one girl I talked to for a VP role several months back now, she actually, through our conversations, ended up deciding to launch her own ops agency. And she actually literally became a fractional operator at our company because when I see, especially women, to your point, who have just made themselves tiny to care for
Mhm.
everyone out and everyone else around them. And they think they have to, a lot of it comes down to money. They think they have to live at a certain income level. I'm like, you actually get to design your life. My favorite book in the world is called that. It's called Designing Your Life. And basically, you get to decide. Like, you actually don't have to make that amount of money if it's making you miserable. And your life would actually probably be net better if you weren't making that amount of money, but you weren't doing something you hated every working moment of your day. So I have a lot of those conversations. I see a lot of companies. I'm very encouraged by this. I see a lot of companies that are increasingly family friendly. Some are not, hear me say,
Mhm.
but a lot are. Like I recently was reading about Remote, which is a company that has 40 days of PTO a year, 40. They have, I think it was a full 6 months of parental leave, whether you're whichever parent you are.
Mhm.
So I think they're the outlier. I very much acknowledge
Yeah.
that. But I do get to recruit for some companies like that, which I'm so grateful for. And I do get to talk to a lot of awesome candidates who are like, they've done the work and they know that this is a way that they can still build a career that they care about, but also be the parent that they want to be. So I think it takes a lot of legwork or, yeah, I think that's the right word for it. A lot of
Yeah.
legwork to kind of navigate like what that looks like for you. But those companies are out there. And if they're not, then you build one. I know that sounds so scary. I was scared too, like I said, but there is just, gosh, there's just so, it's not like a quick fix. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, just fix this today. Like, just all your problems can be solved by the end of this episode. Like, what are you doing? Like I
Mhm.
said, it took me a long time to make the leap myself. Even now, 2 years into building Aligned Recruitment, I literally weekly, if not daily, pause and say, is this working for right now? Like I said, I have two sick kids today, so I didn't work yesterday. I'm logging off early this afternoon. Like every day, I have to be
Mhm.
so intentional and so careful and so clear on what my priorities are for that day. Have I left revenue on the table because of how much time I spend with my kids? Absolutely. 100% I have. I talk to a lot of agency owners who cannot believe how little I work. I work on average 30 days a week. I just took off the entire month of July. I feel so strongly about prioritizing my family over my business while still honoring our clients and our candidates and our teams, of course.
Mhm.
But within that, I'm very aware that sacrifice comes, like that you're going to sacrifice something. Either you're going to sacrifice your family life or your career in some way, shape, or form. And so I think making peace with that and then proceeding appropriately is what is going to give you the most peace.
Mhm. Yeah. So that, brings me to another question because I I like the example that you used of the woman that you talked to, and she ended up going to start her own business because I think there are so many women, and we'll say like corporate women, professional women who are showing up to a job that they do not like. They do not like the things that they're doing. They do not like the systems they're having to operate in their corporate environment. None of it feels really good or aligned with their values or anything like that. But they can talk about leaving to start something for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years before they will actually take the leap. So as someone who has done it, and you've kind of worked in that space where there was a lot of tension between, like, what you were doing and what you were, like, being told that you were, and now being on the other side of it, like, what would you say to somebody who is, like, said forever that they just wanna leave and start their own thing?
So, what really helped me make the leap is that my husband and I sat down and we said, okay, financially, because that's probably people's biggest hesitation is the money is very scary. Financially, let's look at our safety net as a family. Let's look at how long do I realistically have to try to build this business? How much money do I need to make by X date before we say either like, okay, great, it's working, let's keep building it, or okay, this did not get us to where we wanted to be financially, let's scrap it and I'll go out and get a W-2 job. So I would say that's your first step is get with your partner, get with yourself and get really clear on what is my runway and how many months or years of risk can I take on without making money to give myself enough time to build this thing. So that was step one. That's what gave me the confidence to at least try because I was like, okay, and for us, just to be candid, those numbers were we gave ourselves a year. I was like,
Mhm.
I launched it in August 2023. I said, if by August 2024, we're not making we had a monthly amount that I needed to be making at the business. If we're not making that amount, then I'm gonna throw in the towel, call it, a great effort and go get a W-2 job. So luckily in my case that didn't happen, but that's a conversation we have day by day, right? Like as finances fluctuate, as the business ebbs and flows, we're always keeping a pulse on the business's finances, my finances, and just getting super honest and clear with myself and my husband about what we need financially to keep going.
Mhm. Yeah. So how would you describe how differently you feel now than you did, 5 years ago?
Oh my gosh. I take way more ownership now. Like 5 years ago, I was like, "Oh, I'm a pretty good recruiter. That's nice, whatever." Now I'm like, "Wait, why am I a good recruiter? Like, what about me is different from other recruiters?" Because this agency will only work if I can teach that to the recruiters who work for me. Like, if I can't multiply the impact I've been able to have on my candidates, then there's no point and this won't scale. So I've been way more thoughtful, way more reflective. This is a theme of our
Mhm.
conversation today. Way more reflective about what's kind of made me different and what's made me such a good performer at all the companies I've been at before. So that's number one. Number two, I am way more confident. So I fell into recruitment. I like kind of randomly picked it after college and I was like, oh, I'm good at this. You get to talk to people all day. I like talking to people. Great. Check. Done. Now I'm, I mean, gosh, it sounds cocky to say, and I'm going to clarify this, but the reason I started the business is because I am a master of my craft. Like
Mhm.
I do what I do very well. I do it in a way that most people don't. And I have come to be much more confident in my ability as a recruiter than I was previously because I'm like, no, I actually know it works. And the way I do it actually is better and different than most other people. So I would say
Mhm.
those are the two biggest differences between me now and me 5 years ago.
Yeah. Do you like embrace uncertainty any differently? How has like the fear that you had about like all the things that you had to learn, how has that kind of shifted over time? Because these are, I think, are the things that people who are thinking about taking a leap, whether it's a career or not. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's, some other really big life change, but there's like the before and then there's the after. And so if we can help people think about like, well, it is really scary and it is really hard. And, you can't really just like skate your way through it. But what does it actually feel like to kind of like be on the other side of
That's a good question. And I have to be honest with your audience that I wouldn't say it says black and white as a before and after. Like, I would say
it?
there are definitely still days that I'm scared. There are definitely still days that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, I'm just running a business. I'm just out here running a business. And the economy crashes all the time, right? Like, it
Mhm.
could crash any day now. And I think what keeps me doing it scared is that I'm like, the alternative is unpalatable. Like, the
Mhm.
alternative is someone else telling me how to spend my days, someone else telling me what I can and can't do. And I'm just not willing to bend my body into a shape that fits someone else's parameters. I'm just not willing to do that. So I
Mhm.
think ultimately every day when I do feel fear, when I do feel nervous, or when I do feel like, man, this business, today's really hard, or I'm not enjoying these specific tasks I'm having to work on today to get the business to where I want it to be. On those days, I make myself think about, okay, then what's the alternative?
Yeah.
And for me, it's just every time I've asked that question, it's been worth it to keep building the business in the midst of the uncertainty, in the midst of the fear, than it is to pretzel myself into someone else's ideal shape.
Mhm. Yeah, I also think you mentioned a couple of things that I think fall in line with like decision making and kind of your decision making process that I think is important for people to think about because I think that a lot of us tie our like success or failure on a decision instead of looking at that like, well, this is the decision that I'm making with the information that I have right now. And in
Hmm.
a year, if I need to change my mind, I can do that. And that has no implications on this decision that I made a year ago. So your
Yes.
point about like deciding to start the business and giving yourself a year, at the end of the year, you were like, I'm just going to throw in the towel. You weren't like, at the end of the year, I'm going to make a list of all the ways that I failed at this thing, you know what I mean? Like, you did it, you grew, you tried, and now, like, your decision to either stay or, like, change paths is made with the set of information that you have now. And so I think
Hmm.
if we can think about, like, our decision making as more fluid rather than
Yes.
more black and white, that is so helpful in not, like, stopping and beating ourselves up and letting that kind of, like, narrative just tell us that well, we were dumb for even trying, or I can't believe we ever thought we could do that, or, it's like things change, like, all the time,
Yes.
like you're talking about, like, daily. You can
Yes.
revisit that decision daily, make a different one, and, like, the other one's in the rearview mirror, like, you're not even thinking about it anymore.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in you having made a different decision when you had different amounts of information
Mhm,
in the past.
mhm,
Like, oh my gosh, yeah, we've made so many pivots as a business. I've made so many pivots in my personal life. Like I mentioned, my husband and I were foster parents for 5 years, and then just earlier this summer, we had a really intense heart to heart. We were like, this is not sustainable. Like, we actually cannot continue to shoulder this burden on top of everything else we have going on. So we made the decision to close our foster care license, pause the placement we had with us at the moment, and really focus on deep healing as a family. And that was a brutally hard decision to make. But I wasn't mad at the me from 5 years ago who decided to become a foster parent because that me didn't have the 4.5 years of ensuing trauma that came from foster parenting. didn't need to take the time to heal and to process, didn't know that I'd be a business owner and a mom of two toddlers. So I think at every new iteration of your life, you know so much and you've experienced so much that you hadn't previously, that you've got to always give grace to your past decision maker and give space to your current decision maker.
Yes, absolutely. I love the way that you just said that. I think that's really an important, you know, thing for people, for women to contemplate because I hear a lot of that, like fear of making the wrong decision and also just this intense like punishment that we do to ourselves for things that we think that we made bad decisions.
Hmm.
There are times that we make bad decisions, but I would say the majority of us are out here like doing the best that we can with the information that we have and the time that we
Hmm.
have to make it. And we should definitely give ourselves a lot more grace about that and just know that like make a decision and don't be married to it. Like you
Hmm.
can change your mind. You can
Hmm.
you can
Yes.
do all kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah. This has been awesome. I know we're getting close to time. I love this conversation. I love everything you brought. I would encourage people really to go find you on LinkedIn. I don't think they can find you anywhere else, but if you're on
Yeah,
LinkedIn,
you asked earlier about how I deal with like the whole toddler parenting experts in every corner of the internet thing. The answer is I don't have social media. So
yeah,
the only place I am is LinkedIn, and I only have LinkedIn because of the business because I've noticed whenever I have been on Instagram or Facebook, I'm like, "Ooh," like I get
yeah,
sucked in, right? I get sucked into either the expert crap or I get sucked into the moms that are like, LOL, I just like laid around and let my kids watch TV all day, which are just two extremes that I don't want to live
mhm,
in either of them. So
mhm,
I just shut it down. And honestly, whenever I need information, I just ask Google or my mom.
or my mom. Yeah,
Or my mom.
yes, I know. That's a whole another part of that experts on the internet. It's like we not only did we stop trusting ourselves, we stopped trusting our moms. Like,
The
she
good
doesn't know what
news for
she's doing.
me, my mom's a pediatric nurse practitioner, so she's actually the single most helpful person in my life right now. So I'm very grateful. God dealt me a very gracious hand. It really worked out.
Not really.
Um, but yes, to get back to your point from earlier, I am on LinkedIn. I'm actually the only Julia Arpag on LinkedIn, so you will
Nice.
not be able to miss me. So go ahead and look me up there. You can also find me. Our website is just alignedrecruitment.com.
Yep, and those things will be in the show notes. Yeah, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to make sure you leave the audience with or any other, like, I don't know, just lesson you learned or gift you want to give everyone?
I think the best gift I can give to everyone I talk to is you will never arrive. So stop expecting to arrive. Like, I think I thought that once I hit a certain revenue marker, I would feel like I'd arrived, and I don't. And I don't think I
Mhm,
ever will. So we
mhm,
just hit a million in revenue earlier this summer. And I thought, oh my gosh, getting that much revenue in under 2 years, I'll feel like a freaking champ. And there's always going to be a massive crowd of people ahead of you who have made more money faster, flashier ways, in different ways, who run different businesses that you want to emulate some aspect of. And so I think I realized I cannot base my validation externally, no matter what. As a business owner, as a mom, as a wife, I cannot base it externally. So I would say, whatever journey you're on, let the whole thing be a journey. Like, do not ever expect that there's a cut and dry before and after. For me, my validation comes from my faith in Jesus. But for your audience, whatever that validation is, whatever self searching and reflection they have to do to figure out where that is, you've just got to stay grounded in that. Way easier said than done. Like I said,
mhm,
I have to recalibrate every single day. But that I would say has been way more life giving to me than any external goals that I've set.
mhm. Yep, I love that, and I think that's a great place to leave it. Yeah, I think it's can sound cliche when you're like, the joy is in the journey or like life is not a destination, it's a journey. But when you kind of decide that that's the truth, can really, that's when, like going back to the decision making and everything like that, it's like when you realize that you're not trying to get to a destination, like then it doesn't really matter because no matter where you get, like you're just gonna pivot or move or continue to go. And really, the power in that is to be able to stay on the journey that's aligned with your values and your goals and what's important to you. Um, yeah, that's so, so, so valuable. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the wisdom and just great information that you brought. It's great chatting.
I agree, Kelly. Thank you for having me. It was seriously such a blast.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening to Life Intended.
If something from this episode landed with you, stirred something up, or gave you a new perspective, share it, tag us, leave a review. That's how this work reaches more women who really need it.
Life Intended is more than just a podcast. It's a movement back to self-trust, personal power, and living with intention.
We're just getting started.
So keep showing up, keep tuning in. If you're ready for more support on your path, head to lifeintended.co. We've got tools, community, and programs to meet you where you are. Until next time.